Philippine literature is among the most diverse, most colorful, most enriched literatures of the world. Our culture being the result of different time periods and influences affected not only our culture, but our literature as well. Let's travel back in time, shall we? Pre-colonial times. Before the Spaniards came, literature was usually passed down to newer generations by word of tongue. The paper that we use oh so ever often, the one that we know today, was not present. But in spite of its absence, our culture and literature were rich, colorful, and vibrant even. It's the things like these that make you wonder just how we came to be labeled as uncivilized. We even had our own version of the alphabet called the alibata or baybayin. Instead of writing on paper, our ancestors wrote on rocks, cave walls, leaves, and other materials they can find. They had also passed down different types of literature such as proverbs, riddles, folk songs, tales, and epics. And these were all based on their religion, animism, and our ancestors' surroundings. Spanish colonization. During the Spanish colonization, evidences of our culture before they came were reduced to traces. Instead, these foreign people introduced the religion, Catholicism, to our ancestors, thus changing our literature. Different kinds of drama were observed in this period, such as corrido, awit, pasyon, carillo, moro-moro, cenaculo, tibag, duplo or kakatan, and zarzuela. Social hierarchy was also an influence of the Spaniards. Women were seen as inferior compared to men, and Filipinos were seen as inferior to the Spaniards, in contrast to before, when Filipino men and women were equal. One example of this is during plays. Filipinos or Indios are not allowed to watch plays unless they are ilustrados or the enlightened Filipinos. Despite this status, several ilustrados still experience discrimination. Religion and political power were the main topics of this period. These were effectively preserved because people was finally introduced to and utilized by Filipinos. However, one must keep in mind that the education of Spaniards still differed from what the majority of our Filipino ancestors had, thus changing what they wrote, if given the chance. American colonization, Commonwealth period. When the Americans came to our land, a war ensued between the Spaniards and the Americans. The Spaniards put up a fight, but they were no match for the Americans. Spanish forces were vanquished, forcing them to surrender. The Americans emerged victorious, but there was one thing the Filipinos didn't know. Spaniards secretly sold us to the Americans for $20 million. Our poor ancestors thought they were finally free. Well, not exactly. The Americans held us for nearly more than 40 years, once again changing our culture and our literature. This period is known as the rise of the informal essays, and although not as free as we are today, our ancestors wrote practically about anything. First informal essays were written in English, the new language taught to our ancestors by American soldiers and by the Thomasites. American colonization changed our culture and our literature forever. For one, because of the large influence of the powerful Americans in our culture, a lot of Filipinos have colonial mentality. And what's worse is that some Filipinos shun our own culture while romanticizing others. Martial law and EDSA revolution. The Japanese colonization made an imprint in our long, bloody history of having foreign rulers, even bloodier. Through it, much ire have the Filipino gone through. Regardless, our literature went forth. Till came a time when former President Marcos declared martial law.
I signed Proclamation number 1081, placing the entire Philippines under martial law.
This effectively hindered literature because nearly everything was restricted. Anyone who wrote and moved against the government were punished. However, the Filipino got together, came through, and demonstrated the first bloodless uprising against dictatorship. We united and fought for our freedom. With this came the liberation of our literature. Modern times. After such a victory, the Filipino became free once more to write about whatever topic we chose, to such point that we were able to write topics such as racism, sexism, gender issues, politics, religion, and other such flaws of our society and culture. This gave rise to the ever-growing and ever-shifting contemporaryism. However, in this day and age, several people have begun making use of different devices such as phones, laptops, and other such devices when it comes to literature. And thus, electronic literature was born. Methods to express one's thoughts are about as many as the thoughts themselves. These methods vary from blogging, vlogging, literature on social media such as Facebook literature, Twitter literature, spoken word poetry, and photo essay. That's not even a fraction of what we can accomplish. Truly enough, our literature is not purely Filipino, but the fact that it is made up of different cultures is what makes us stand out. I guess you can say that Philippine literature is lit.
And it feels like shelter here in the arms of someone new, but I'd rather be there under the covers just with you. Oh, 'cause you were my everything. Now I don't know what to do. Oh, I'm caught up in the storm.